When you start with street photography, you're quickly at a point where you want to incorporate strangers into your pictures. And I mean, it's pretty obvious why, because this can turn a simple image into an exciting one. Up to a certain point, compositions aren't as relevant, and people change all the time, so you can use the same place for various different pictures, compared to architecture, for example. Being based in Germany, I often have the issue that people start to look at me when I photograph. And if you're watching this video, you probably know the issue as well. And this isn't great for candid street photography at all, because you just want to capture the moment without them noticing you. But the good news is that in the past I gathered some experience with this issue and learned to deal with it. The following 8 tips include basic ones, but also tips I wish I had known earlier. So let's start with the first one. The first tip is probably just for a few of you relevant, but if possible, get a compact camera. I mean, this setup is really crying for attention. So in my case, I bought the Leica Q2. With this camera, I look much more like a tourist and less intimidating. But there are also cheaper options out there, such as the currently hyped Fuji X100V, and probably even ones for a couple $100. However, for most of you, this probably isn't an option, so let's see what you can do without a new setup. Another tip is to keep your distance. For some street photography styles, you don't need to get close-ups. You could just find a cool composition and capture your subject in there. I really like this type of photography, which probably counts as fine art street photography, because I'm a huge fan of those clean compositions and lines in the picture. But the downside is that you don't really get a good look at the expressions and emotions of the people, so let's focus more on that. On some occasions, people are really open to being photographed, and there's just too much going on that they don't even realize you're there. Of course, I'm talking about events. When there was Christopher Street Day in my hometown, I got some cool shots of people and they didn't even care. Especially if you signal that you're part of it and blend in, it gets much easier. But now let's talk about the most basic street photography. Just capturing people from relatively close up. When I photograph strangers, I try to be as sneaky as possible. To achieve that, keep the camera down and get some lower angle shots. Just move the camera a little bit with the subject and you can already get some cool pictures. The advantage is that at a lower height, the others might not even see your camera. I also like to use this trick when someone is sitting on the side. Then I'll pass them and keep the camera panned to the side and just take as much pictures as possible. But to be fair, most of the time this isn't as successful and it involves a lot of cropping and straightening lines. However, if you want to get pictures that look more like they were shot at eye level, keep your camera in this position. If you spot the motive and then start raising it, it's already too late and you gain attention because the eye is drawn to movement. I like to keep my camera raised so that they don't know when I'm actually shooting. I also try to be fairly quick and don't focus on them for too long. But this trick can also have the opposite effect. When I was in Rome, I ran around with my camera up. And then someone approached me because he thought I'd taken a picture of him when in reality I didn't. So I showed him the last picture I took and gladly he believed me, because in theory I could have shown him anything. But this was also a situation where we're just like 2 or 3 other people on the street, and in reality when you're shooting in a more crowded space, I never had an issue so far. Although you want to be undercover, when the people you're photographing do spot you, just be open. I start to smile at them so they don't feel like they caught me. And it probably gives them a good feeling about the situation as well. The worst thing you can do is turn away hectic. Also, take this into account when you shoot using the EVF. Keep the camera only on one side and don't block your whole face. This looks much more open. I even heard that some photographers cover the red dot of the Leica logo so that it doesn't look like a Terminator eye. It is important to keep yourself updated. That's why you should subscribe to the channel so you don't miss my upcoming videos about street photography. You should also dress accordingly, so maybe don't rock the all black outfit, you don't want to be a creep. Just keep in mind that it's important you seem like a great dude. So you also have to seem confident, and you should also check out my Instagram to get some inspiration for your street photography. Now that you know how to handle your subject, there may also be others that start to look at you. But in that case, you just have to deal with it. This may not be the advice you hope to hear, but as you don't photograph them, they usually won't approach you, so you just have to ignore them. If you're uncomfortable shooting in public, check out my video on what to do if you're an introverted photographer.